If you find yourself answering the same questions over and over again, and you're seeing that your clients are making the same mistakes over and over again, it actually lowers the cost to your clients to provide them training or to partner with a trainer versus spending your time. What if you could eliminate that entire repetitive element of your job and add a new revenue stream along the way?
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a great one. Our guest is the co-founder of Royalwise, which is a certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor, Apple, and Microsoft computer training and support company. Alicia Katz Pollock, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you. I'm looking forward to getting into this with you and learning about you. And so let's do that now. Tell us a little bit about your career journey leading up to this point so our audience can get to know you.
Sure. Well, I've been a computer geek ever since the first computers came out. And long before I was a computer geek, I was kind of just a teacher. I was that kid in second grade who was helping the kindergartners with their work, with the writing and with their reading. And so I've always loved helping people. And when the first home computers came out, I was 13. So I know I'm kind of aging myself there. But I got my first Apple, what was it, a Mac Plus? And my dad was a dentist and his office was actually in the basement of my house. And I would go down after school and I built my first database on AppleWorks at age 13. And I went through probably 1,000 of his client files and added everybody's names and addresses and phone numbers to the system. So I learned to type really quickly. And I created that recall system. You know how you get that postcard in the mail from your dentist every 6 months reminding you to come in for a cleaning? Well, I was the kid who set up that system in the dental office in Philadelphia in the 70s.
Wow. Amazing. That is, when you say that, we have something in common. I remember I was really into computers myself at a young age, and I remember the day that I think I was in actually detention, which is another story. But it was the first day that my teacher in grade 7 had brought in the first time I ever saw an Apple, and he brought in this computer. He was setting it up. I was in detention, only one there. I was like, wow, it was so cool seeing him turn it on. I'll never forget that day.
Yeah, then playing with the paint program with all the brick walls, that was just the coolest thing ever.
Yes. So you've been doing this a while.
Yes, I have.
And then how did it morph from there?
So I got my master's in teaching and thought I was going to be a 7th grade English teacher. And I looked into, I had focused on in my master's program, educational reform. And I got into the public schools and I got into the classroom with 7th graders. And I realized that there was not a single one in the room except for me who wanted to be there. And it just made the job hard. And so I I went over to the community college in Santa Fe and started teaching in their GED and an adult basic education program to students who actually wanted to be there. And I realized that I definitely enjoyed teaching adults more than I enjoyed teaching teenagers. So I started teaching GED and writing and English. And so I was a college English teacher for a while, but my love of computers never went away. It was always my focus. And so I got Microsoft Office certified. And so I kind of cut my teeth on Word and Excel certification. And over time, that became even more interesting to me. And so I started freelancing and, going into small businesses and helping them with their Microsoft Office and teaching them how to format Word documents and how to do their Excel and how to set up Access databases. And as things developed over the decades, I started teaching Apple as well and went back to teaching at community colleges and business schools. And then I met my husband, who was also into tech as well. And I managed to hook up with an Apple store here in Portland and was teaching classes through that Apple store. And as I would go to people's houses to help them with their computers, people started asking me, well, I'm using Quicken, I'm using QuickBooks. Do you have any expertise? Can you teach me how to use those? And I was using QuickBooks for my own business, but I didn't really have any accounting background. And so I would tell them, well, I can teach you what to click, but I don't know exactly, the big picture. But I got really interested in it. It was kind of like building databases. It was categorizing transactions and putting them into buckets and making sure that everything was all accurate. And that really is a lot of the same skill as the database work that I had been doing. And so I started getting more and more questions about it, which was interesting. So I talked to a couple of bookkeepers and showed them what I was doing. And they were like, Alicia, you're actually pretty good at this. Like, these are really good, especially for somebody who doesn't have any formal accounting training. And so I realized that it was kind of like the perfect storm of my skills. It was the accuracy and the loving of putting things in buckets and loving financials. I was running my own reports all the time. And as our company grew, Jamie, my husband, and I, people would call us to do the home visits or for their businesses or for their homes. And originally, it was just whoever was first available would take the call. Jamie's available, I'm available, we would go do it. But then as the QuickBooks requests started increasing, we decided to split it off, that he would be the Apple guy and I would be the QuickBooks gal. And then that's kind of how our company really started taking off, was when we decided to differentiate ourselves.
Wow. And you still work together in that fashion where you do that side of it and he does the Apple side.
Yeah, we're one of those rare couples who actually works really well together. And so we run the company, we run the household. We kind of joke that, like, I'm the dad of the family and he's the mom of the family. He's the one who makes sure that there's delicious food on the table and the kids get to school on time. And I'm the one who, does podcasts at 7 a.m.
Wow. Amazing. We talked about the fact that you also do Microsoft. Was that, it sounds like Apple's been part of, it's your husband, your passion as well. That's where you started with Apple. Was Microsoft always on the side there, or just had to be there because of the way business works?
Well, what's actually interesting is it really speaks to the difference in the three companies that I've been, like I said, Microsoft certified for over 30 years, and I still am. But Microsoft didn't support me as an instructor. Like, they had an MCT program, but there wasn't any way where there was no website where people could go to find a professional. And so it was up to me to hustle to find Microsoft jobs. With Apple, and I am still in the Apple Consultants Network, I am still Apple certified. They were a step better than that. There was a website. As long as you're certified, people can go to the website and search for you. So there was that. And there was also a community. There was a small group of other people who were training home users in the Portland area, and we're still associated with them. And so, we would meet and have camaraderie and have breakfast together and coffee and tell war stories. And so I liked that community. But there still wasn't anything forthcoming from Apple. It was all us generating it. And then when I discovered QuickBooks and the Intuit community, like, it was a game changer, because, like, from the days of QuickBooks Connect to the findaproadvisor.com website to all the communities on Facebook, Intuit really encouraged people to expand themselves and to develop as professionals and to help them find clients. And so it was just a world of difference. And that's one of the things that helped the QuickBooks part of my business absolutely explode and become a full-time endeavor.
Wow. In the early days of your business, what were some of the challenges that you faced?
In the earliest days, it was driving around to clients' houses before there were iPhones, when you had to actually sit down in the beginning of the day and make a triptych and put in everybody's addresses and actually print out maps to get you from client to client to client. And then the iPhone was invented, and I could just open up the map and tap on the map and it would tell me where to go, which was great because if I had a cancellation and a reschedule, I could actually get to their house without writing down a giant list of instructions to drive around town.
Amazing. And now, probably a lot less driving around.
Yeah, we actually started Zooming back in 2018. So long before the pandemic, we had actually adopted that as a business model that, first of all, when we were teaching classes, it shows you how ahead of my time I was. It was probably 15 years ago now. I would be in the classroom at the Apple store and we'd be like, the only people who can come to this class are here, people in Portland who are available right this minute. What if we videotaped and recorded the classes? And so I made my first recording of how to use the Apple Macintosh system, and we published it on DVD, and we put it in boxes, and we sold it on Amazon. And so that took away the place and the time element of it. And then Zoom was invented, and we had started recording our classes probably 2018 and putting them out over Zoom to get rid of that barrier when I'm teaching classes. And now everybody's like, oh yeah, I just log into this webinar. But 5 years ago, we had to teach people how to do it. And in 2018, there was a snowstorm in December and our whole city shuts down because in Portland, it doesn't snow. Like if we get 2 inches of snow, we don't have snow plows. So the whole city stops. And I had a really important client to work on her books cleanup. And I was like, well, how am I going to screen share with her? How am I going to do this if I can't get there? And I was like, well, let me try, Join Me. And it didn't really work. And then I was like, well, let me try Zoom. And it worked. And we Zoomed and it was so easy. And so I had actually stopped driving around to my clients in 2018. So when the pandemic hit and Zoom became a necessity in people's lives, we actually ran free Zoom trainings. We did several of them, teaching people how to do meetings and also how to run meetings. And, my audience is business owners, but my husband's audience, he has a lot of seniors learning to use their computers. And so we offered these free Zoom trainings. And the first one we had 85 attendees. Wow. The average age was 70. And we had these little old ladies and their husbands leaning into the camera going, is this thing on? Can they hear me? All at the same time. So it was really fun and really funny, but we really took pride in that because we actually helped the seniors get on board with Zoom so that they could stay connected to their families in that really troubled time.
It reminds me, just yesterday I had an issue with my phone and I went into the store to get it fixed into the phone store where all the phones are. And there was this older gentleman. He came in and he hands the phone to the guy. He's like, I just got this phone. He was probably in his 80s. He said, I bought this phone recently and it doesn't work. It just shut off. And the guy takes it, young guy, of course, right? Probably in his teenage years. He takes it and he goes, plugs it in. He goes, it went dead. It's battery's dead. He goes, what do you mean?
Right.
You plug it in. The old guy was so good with it. He was just like, oh, okay, I'll plug it in. No problem. And he went about his way. He's like, okay, it'll be charged in 4 hours. He goes, well, I guess I could just sit here and wait. It's like, no, you can plug it in at home. It's okay.
Take it in with you.
So you've probably seen all sorts of stories like that over the years. Sounds like technology is not your any area of obstacle for you. In business, what were some of the other challenges even today? Like, what is it, some people and many people would complain about all this new technology, all these, embracing the newest thing. You seem to jump right onto it. What are the things that you don't like to jump onto in your business?
Well, there's not much that I won't jump into with 2 feet. For me personally, the thing that's the biggest challenge is that I write books. I write textbooks, and I've written a couple different QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop books for Questiva Consultants at questivaconsultants.com. And we just released a QuickBooks Online step-by-step, hands-on, case-based training textbook. And the challenge with that is that it would change out from under me while I was writing it. And, all of us who use QuickBooks Online know that that's both the joy and the tribulation of it, is that they're always improving it, but it could look different on two different screens, much less from yesterday to today. And so as I was writing this book, for example, we had finished it in July, and it was in editing, and the woman who was testing it out was saying, well, all the sales tax figures are wrong. And I was like, okay, well, why is that? And the fictitious company in Alameda, California, right in that time, from the time when I wrote it to the time that we were fact checking it, changed their tax rates. And I had to go back in and redo all the exercises in the entire book right before publication. And that was just because a city changed the tax rate, much less how different features show up or the names change. So for me as a trainer, especially as a QuickBooks trainer, that's my biggest challenge, is staying on top of all the different changes that are happening. I love it. I've got job security, that's for sure.
That's right. You'll always be working busily to get that done. Do you find that your students, like how do most of your students react to those changes? How can our listener who might be frustrated with that you've just said, embracing technology, do better at it?
Well, the thing is really just embracing the unknown, that some people are great with change. Some people thrive on it. Other people hate change. They want to have one way of doing things and get used to it and just be able to do it unconsciously so that they can think about other things. And as a QuickBooks Online user, one of the things that's really important is that you do embrace those changes, that you just roll with it, that if something is different, you make note of it, you go, oh, that's interesting, and then keep moving on. And fortunately, a lot of the time, our brains just kind of see it one time and accept it, or we look at it and we're like, I know that's different, but I can't tell what. And then you just kind of keep rolling from there.
So interesting. Now, you work with a lot of bookkeepers, our audience, our listener right now. What kind of training do you do with them?
I train both bookkeepers and business owners to use QuickBooks specifically. And I like working with the two different audiences because they have both the content's the same for both of them, but the needs are different. And training is really crucial, because if somebody is untrained on using QuickBooks, it can take up to 6 times as long to accomplish the work as it does if you have training. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, I'm just going to self-train myself. But it actually costs 73% more than taking formal training, because it takes you so much longer to figure it out by yourself. And so really encouraging people to get that training, that you get return on investment within a few months of that initial outlay to do the training. And when I'm working with bookkeepers, sometimes it's the bookkeeping firm, especially with the Great Resignation going on, where they have a lot of staff turnover. They have new people coming in that may not have that level of training. So I really enjoy working with firms because I can take their new staff and get their new staff up to speed in a hurry without them having to take the time away from their productivity and helping their clients. And so it's a really good partnership. And then some of those companies will also offer our trainings to their business owners, the people who are hands-on in the files, so that they're not answering the same questions over and over and over again, or having to pull themselves away from their billable hours in order to do training and answer questions.
Very interesting. It's amazing that when you think about any kind of training, many people, myself included, look at things like, it's so easy, I could do it myself. But when we think about all the time that other people have invested in learning something and getting really, really good at it, like the ability to, basically catapult ourselves into expertise by working with someone like yourself, it's remarkable. The one that comes to my mind was typing. You'd learned typing really early in your life. I didn't, and I for whatever reason was just not interested in it at all. Didn't think it would be useful or anything along those lines based on when I grew up. Went through all through high school and then university. about almost 10 years in my corporate career. And then I got a job with a .com company, and it was like everything's typed. Like there's like everything, every communication, email, notes about clients, like they work only in the cloud. And so I was like type pecking. And I thought that this is not going to work. So I took a typing course, and literally in 3 weeks, I went from being able to not type to being like a very fast, proficient typist. And I thought, why didn't I do this 20 years ago?
I honestly think that my typing is probably, of all the things, if somebody says like, what was the most valuable class you've ever taken? I would actually say that my typing classes, because I took typing from in a 7th and 8th grade, and then as an elective in 9th grade, to the point that I can type as fast as I can think, and I can think pretty fast. And if I didn't know how to type as well as I did, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do. I wouldn't be able to develop websites or write books, because it would take just that much longer.
Absolutely. And that's the realization, the very costly realization that I had as well. And I think that's the same in a firm, in a business. It's just, it seems like a cost, but it's an investment. And we know that about education, but sometimes it doesn't seem like that way. It's like someone knows how to use something already. There's always an opportunity to improve, to get faster. Like I can type, but I bet if I did another course, I'd get even faster. And what would that provide for me?
Right. And it's really also useful to look at the services that you're providing to your clients as a bookkeeper, that if you find yourself answering the same questions over and over again, and you're seeing that your clients are making the same mistakes over and over again, it actually lowers the cost to your clients to provide them training or to partner with a trainer versus spending your time. What if you could eliminate that entire repetitive element of your job and add a new revenue stream along the way?
It's a fantastic idea. And I don't think we've actually talked about that on the show before, is this whole concept of having clients trained in doing and using the tools that impact our audience, the bookkeepers, in a positive way. Do you have any stories of where you've seen this happen and how it went?
Oh, the stories are like practically infinite, that I don't think I've ever had a dissatisfied client. I might have had somebody who couldn't work our learning platform, but I've never had anybody who didn't say, oh my God, that little side note that you just threw in there, that was worth the whole price of admission right there. I love, when I do training, I love not just the big picture, but the tips and the tricks and the little, did you know that if you click this button over here or right click on this over here, then you get this extra little benefit? People who don't know that you can have multiple tabs open in QuickBooks Online, or they don't know the profiles where you can actually have several different clients open all at the same time. Some of those things are game changers, no matter what level you're at.
Amazing. Yeah, and it's so true. And so if our listeners is seeing their clients struggling in this area, they can either do if they have that expertise, that could be another line of business. I know many do that, but it sounds like a really great opportunity to partner with someone like yourself to be able to provide that service to their clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you are going to go into training, it's one thing to, compile the list of questions that you're being asked repeatedly and, write down the answers or record a video that demonstrates the answers to it. But there is actually a science behind effective training, that different people have different learning styles. And fortunately, with video these days, now that it's become ubiquitous, it's a great benefit, because the 3 major learning styles are audio learners, visual learners, and kinesthetic learners. Audio learners are the ones who they learn by hearing it. They love podcasts like this one. They love music. Written instructions work well for them, because when we read, we actually audibly encode the information. Some people are visual. They like to see it. They love watching videos. They love watching movies and demonstrations, and they watch it and they got it. And some people are kinesthetic. You could tell them over and over and over again, but they don't learn it until they actually do the physical hands-on activity and get that hands-on repetition. And so that's one thing that's just really fantastic about all the new videos systems that we have out now for training is that they really take care of the audio and visual. And now what I like to do is add in that hands-on where they actually like help them do the work. And a lot of the time when I'm doing one-on-one trainings, that's what I do is I actually make them drive. I'll say, okay, now go over here and click this, and I'll watch them click this. And then I'll say, okay, type this, and I'll watch them type this. And I actually make them do the work in their own QuickBooks so that they can learn how to do it.
So true. You know, there's many bookkeepers that are just getting started, listeners, sorry, that are just getting started in their own business. And what would you recommend in terms of how they approach training with their clients and themselves in this day and age?
What's really important is kind of crafting it as a whole experience, that you have to start by finding out where they're at. You have to find out what they know that they know. Then they came to you for a reason. You know, they know that they don't know something, and that's what brings them to you, and that's the place to start. What do you know that they need to learn? Then part of the process is building up their confidence and making them realize that they know more than they think they know. And then where it really comes in and the value added is filling in the gaps. You know, what do they don't know that they don't know? What do you see that they didn't even realize was there? And what can you give them? And those are the nuggets and the aha moments where they didn't know this feature was there. They didn't know this button did that. And all of a sudden they just light up and they're electrified and excited about QuickBooks and excited about their accounting.
Wow. An opportunity for sure. So many things happening in the world around technology. What do you see that you're excited about? Something new, a new app? What's been exciting you lately?
Well, I really like the new integrations that are allowing you to access your QuickBooks data from behind the scenes, that sometimes in QuickBooks Online, because it is a web-based database, there isn't any way other than through the interface, and you might have to touch a whole lot of transactions in order to make some changes. So for that reason, inside QuickBooks Online for accountants, my favorite feature is Reclassify by far. You know, I love being able to just say this one, and this one, move these out of meals and entertainment and put them over in owner draw. But sometimes there's even more things that have to be done. And so I really enjoy things like CData, or there's a new feature that's coming out in QuickBooks Online Advanced where you can actually view your data through Excel. And then you can go in and make the changes in Excel in bulk. And you can use formulas, or you can copy and paste across columns and update the data and change the data in mass. And so that for me is what I'm most jazzed about, is this new unification between Excel and QuickBooks Online as a backdoor update tool.
Very interesting. You know, with something like that, I would think it's dangerous in the wrong hands. Is that what you've experienced, or how do you deal with that, where there's so much power, where you could change so much information, and when it comes to financials, create a lot of damage? I guess it'll make the bookkeepers very busy if the business owners get their hands on it.
Yeah, no, this is a feature that I would not suggest to my business owners. This would be for the bookkeepers, but even so, that is a huge danger, and that is my fear when going into something that's database driven, is you break the field that creates the link between all of the elements. And so, in addition to these technologies, and my other big favorite is rewind.com, which is an on-demand backup. And so if I am going to ever go in and do systematic changes or systemic changes to somebody's file, I'll actually go and run a backup first so that I can roll it back to the way it was before I do an update or do an import or do a structural change.
Very interesting. Where do you keep up, like when it comes to QuickBooks, where do you keep up with all of the information and all of the changes? What is your best source of new information?
I really like Insightful Accountants newsletter. It's one that I read almost every day. I love Intuit's In the Know webinars, where they showcase what's being rolled out that month. I really like, I've been reading Accountancy Slice, which is not much about the QuickBooks. It's more about what's happening in the industry. I think those are probably my biggest sources, are the In the Know webinars and Insightful Accountant. Oh, that's right. The Woodward Alliance, also their daily newsletter comes up with and features new features and techniques as well.
Some fantastic resources. Throughout the pandemic, there was probably you probably attended events. There weren't many events, live events, and in-person events. How has that impacted you?
Well, as everybody does, I miss the conferences, and I'm one of those people that, because my husband goes to seniors' homes, I have to be completely COVID paranoid, because if we get it, we have the danger of passing it on to other people. And so we're actually more protective than most people are these days. We are going to Scaling New Heights. I did skip Accountancy Web, but at least I've had Zoom. A lot of people complain about Zoom as not being an authentic experience and community with people. But for me, I've actually been much more in touch with my friends and colleagues in the industry because of Zooms. And so even my local networking groups, we're still Zooming instead of getting together face to face.
So interesting, and always great to hear when people are looking out for others, like you're doing with your clients around the pandemic. This has been absolutely fantastic, Alicia, for our listeners, and I know they are going to definitely be interested in learning more about some of the training that you have and other services that you have. How can they find out more about you?
Well, visiting us at royalwise.com is the place to go, or you can go straight into my learning portal at learn.royalwise.com. And I have a lot of different resources out there that, like we said, we have an Apple section, a Microsoft section, and a QuickBooks section. And then we also have all the different delivery styles. We have on-demand recordings. I have over 40 different QuickBooks online training videos, from a 6-hour boot camp to deep dives, like 2-hour deep dives just on the Project Center for job costing and just on running reports. And then I have a subscription model where when you subscribe, you get access to all of the videos so that you can deep dive and binge watch as much QuickBooks as you can for your heart's content. And then I also do one-to-one services where I'll sit down with you and actually we'll go over your client files. Like if you're stuck or you have questions about a file that you're working on and you're not sure how to move forward, I'm somebody that you can actually ask instead of posting on a public forum. Like on social media, you can actually just have direct access to an authority. I am one of Intuit's national trainers. And so if you were doing, for instance, your certification trainings at Intuit's qbtrainingevents.com, I'm one of the people who do those presentations, or the little elf in the background doing the Q&A during the sessions. So I'm really, up on the deep information that Intuit provides.
Wonderful. Amazing resources. And on behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for your generosity in coming and sharing what you know with our listener.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we do even have a partner program. So if you do want to provide training to your clients, you can do revenue share with us too.
Beautiful. Very exciting. Well, I know our listener will be reaching out and learning more about you, and this has been absolutely fantastic. And I want to thank you for being on the show.
Well, this was a treat for me. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Beautiful. All our pleasure. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guests and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.